Christmas at Darren's Air Conditioning Services. Darren's Air Conditioning Services. Professional services at affordable prices. They have air conditioning units, Wi-Fi ready, starting at $2,650 with free delivery and installation. We supply Pioneer, Lennox, Comfy, and Infinity, all at unbeatable prices. Servicing of a 12,000 BTU, only $150. Don't forget to check them out on Google, Facebook, and Instagram. Darren's Air Conditioning Services. Professional services at affordable prices. Contact Darren's Air Conditioning Services at 749-8245.
Antel is Trinidad's most reliable and technically experienced ICT company, providers of quality structured cabling, Cat6 data fiber and power cables. We also stock cabling infrastructure basket-type cable trays for server rooms and data centers. Antel also installs and maintains video security systems including cameras, alarms and electronic entrance locks for businesses and residential properties. Call Antel 674-1406 or 783-9250.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Good evening, the Caribbean. Good evening, the rest of the world. It is Tuesday, November 30th. For many people who learned that this show was going to be happening tonight, it's a show that they've been waiting on. Somebody told me they set their alarm, they turn on the TV, they turn on the computer, they turn on their phone, they wasn't missing this. Somebody else just messaged me and told me that prime ministers around the world are watching this. This is someone who people wanted to hear from. They've been waiting to hear from. They want his take. They've seen things happen and it's not adding up and it's not making sense, like a lot of the other things that are not making sense in Trinidad and Tobago. This is a Tuesday. Our show is normally on a Thursday night at 8 o'clock. But starting this week and starting with this mega show, it's going to be every Tuesday and every Thursday at 8 o'clock. I'm going to be joined tonight by the People's Commissioner of Police, Captain Gary Griffith. Good evening, Captain Griffith.
Good evening, Phillip. Good evening, everyone.
Satish have you down as the former commissioner. I have you down as the People's Commissioner. You are to choose which title you're taking.
I say you could call me Gary. Just don't call me Collect. Call me anything you want.
Listen, I know that you and I, when we get together, there's kicks and lines sometimes, but this is a very serious issue. So I literally have one question. If I get any other questions, it will flow from this question. The Police Service Commission and the merit list. What happened? What is happening? And what can happen from it?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. In a nutshell, let me see how quickly I could just compile all of this. This is when it is you have politicians getting involved in an independent body, and somehow we could even refer to it as an abuse of authority. We can go back to 3 years ago with the appointment of the Commissioner of Police in 2018, when it is we actually saw some direct political involvement, if not influence. In 2018, there were 53 odd police officers who applied for the position of Commissioner of Police. I was the only one who did not, who was not a police officer. In that, there were about 9 assessments. I topped almost every single assessment. Stephen Williams, Harold Phillip, Zulal Shan, Jacob, Lola Christopher, every single one of them, I defeated comprehensively in every one of the 8 assessments. But again, as it happens, because the then PSC was appointed by the previous government, something happened. They started whispering. They said no, but they want to change the format and have their own process. They did another set of exams, and I still was able to get the highest number of points of all who applied for Commissioner of Police. That then PSC, again with political involvement, decided to say, we do not care about the results, we do not care about the points, we do not care about anything, we will put Gary Griffith forth. And that is an example of political involvement and manipulation of an independent body. We fast forward now to 2020, where the Prime Minister makes a public statement to try to influence or some way allude to police officers that you can go ahead and arrest citizens in their homes. As a commissioner of police, I stood firm and I told the Prime Minister, you were wrong, because had I not done so, Phillip Alexander having Mother's Day line and 5 people turn up in your home, and a young, naive police officer may have believed that the Prime Minister was correct and you would have been arrested. It would have been tens of millions of dollars that the taxpayers would have to pay for wrongful arrests. I stood up with it. That Prime Minister was offended because of his skin being very thin. He ran like a little child to the PSC and complained. Again, interference. We move forward now. Because of all the things that happened all of last year, there was the highest reduction in every single crime in over 25 years in the country. Public trust and confidence in the police service went up from 14 to 42%. All of a sudden, the same Prime Minister now shifts the goalpost again and says, I want Gary Griffith to remain. He goes and amends the law to ensure that I can act as Commissioner of Police. Again, political involvement to have who you want there. Then we move on to just about the 10th or 11th of August, one of his minion who whispers to him, tells him something, and then we get the ultimate political involvement where the office of the president has been embarrassed because she did not do her job. There was a law that the only law that she had to do is when you get that merit list to forward it to Parliament. She failed to do her job in accordance with the Constitution. The chair of the Police Service Commission is blocked by a senior government official, and the reason I can say that is because a previous member of the PSC brought this to my attention and admitted that this is what caused the problem. So a government official interfered with the process, tells the PSC chairman to pull back the merit list. She does that where she had no authority to do so. She then virtually breaks the law, which is where I have written to DCP Jacob for an investigation to be launched, where she tries to suspend a sitting commissioner of police illegally because the 3 other PSC members said, you have no authorization, there's nothing he did to warrant that. But she was working to instructions. She said she doesn't care. She then refuses to rescind the merit list. She then also lies to the PSC by stating that I interfered with an investigation when Justice Sandy John wrote comprehensively that this was not so. And then with all of this, so it could be seen that there was deliberate government interference not to have that merit list sent to Parliament. Come back now, when the new PSC comes in, it seems that they became a fear factor when Senior Counsel Martin Daly emphatically confirmed that there was nothing wrong with that merit list. Nothing was done in any way inappropriate, so the merit list was alive, and it meant that the new PSC had no other obligation but to forward that merit list now to the president when they're appointed. It seems that government officials got concerned about this because they realized that this new PSC, if they are independent and they cannot be influenced by government officials, they will do their job correctly, in contrast to what Blissy Prasad did not do, and they would have forwarded that list to Parliament. Lo and behold, Stuart Young, who acts as Attorney General just before the substantive Attorney General returns to the country, drafts a cabinet note to scrap that previous legal notice that allowed for that merit list to be drafted, to come up with a new merit list, and they shift the goalposts conveniently. This government has proven to be a referee where after 89 minutes in every game, if the score is not how they want, they're going to blow off the game and start over. And what I believe has been a reason for this is that a few members of Parliament spoke to me and actually told me that if the whip is lifted, if there's a conscience vote in Parliament, and because they are members of Parliament in their constituency, they would vote in support of me, especially as it was brought to their attention I was on top of that merit list. That I seem to be the biggest concern for Keith Rowley, because if you have a government and members of Parliament are voting left and right, that is the start of a government collapsing.
So the question then, and it has to be asked, legally, is that merit list still alive?
Well, it all goes with the present Police Service Commission, because there was nothing that was done in any way to scrap that merit list. So if it is that the acting Attorney General tries a fast one, bolts a goose to try to say, well, look, there's a new legal notice, it does not mean that the merit list itself is dead. But because a cabinet note is drafted and it is now rubber stamped by a president, the president has now stated something to say that, listen, we have a new legal notice for the appointment of a commissioner of police. Initially, through my attorneys, we would have won because the present PSC would have to have agreed to forward that merit list because there was no justification to scrap it based on justifiable expectations of the number of candidates who went through several different assessments for us to have reached the point of being shortlisted, from mock media conferences, assessments, security vetting, polygraph testing, psychometric testing, media mock interviews. All of this we expected. So you put us through all of this, and because you did not like the result that you want with the person who is on top, you decide to scrap it. So it is based really on the PSC. What do they intend to do? Do they intend to continue the process from the last merit list, or is it that they will just scrap it and they may have some cushion to do so because the president has signed it and it is now going in parliament to start the ball rolling again? And my position is that many people, again, Philip, and Trinidad and Tobago, Nigel Henry, who has probably the most independent of independent polls, the last poll was 89% of the country poll, which a 4% margin of error, stated that they would like me to return or have no issues with me returning. And by that happening, that is the only reason I applied. Many people are telling me I should reapply again, but why? All that will happen is I will continue to apply, continue to top the merit list, and they will continue the government will continue to blow off the game just before the final whistle. So the position that I am put in is that I think that the police service needs a commissioner of police. The country has seen blatantly the abuse of power, the small-minded attitude by officials in cabinet for what they have done. They did not care. This shows the importance of constitutional reform, and I would love to hear Vernon on this, because since 1976, we have seen a government then drafted a constitution deliberately assigned to ensure that when I am in power, I have the ultimate say. And every time new governments kick in, instead of them doing what is required to make amendments to the constitution, they keep it there because they now have the authority and being virtually invincible to do what they want. And that is where it is important for constitutional reform, because what happened here is that our government is now deliberately shifting the goalposts, and they can legally abuse and manipulate the constitution because of the flaws in the constitution.
Satish, Gary just asked for a comment from senior attorney Vernon De Lima. Is he available? Is he ready to come on? We're going to try and bring Vernon De Lima on screen. There he is. Good evening, Vernon. And you could say good evening. Gary pulled
Good evening,
you
Gary.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good
Gary,
evening to you
what did
both.
I ask? Sorry, you could say good evening.
I heard what Gary said, and although I'm not a constitutional lawyer, I do appreciate what you have said. You can't just change the goalpost to suit yourself as time goes on. I think, listening to what you have said, that you have been subject to irregularities, right? Serious irregularities, and it doesn't smell good. You know, it is to my mind, from what you have said, you've been done in. And that is how it seems to me. You know, that there's certain people there who have set out to ensure that you are not installed in that position again. I mean, I tell you, as I see it, I may be wrong, but that is the way I see it.
Vernon does as plain as day. But Gary, I want to ask you a question, and this question is a lead into another question. Does Trinidad and Tobago have a commissioner of police according to the Constitution right now?
No, we don't. And this is where it is amazing that a prime minister could have the audacity to try to cover these ineffective systems, to boast that a sergeant will keep sergeanting and inspectors will keep inspecting. It's obviously, why don't you see without a prime minister, ministers will keep ministering? It does not work that way. The police service is without a commissioner of police. We have the PCA with a number of persons who are to be suspended, and they cannot be suspended because you do not have a commissioner of police. The commissioner of police is not just a figurehead. It is something that is critical towards the leadership, the hierarchy. Right now, we are seeing the most that we are seeing in the police service since I left is dismantling, destroying, shutting down, firing, and all of this is being done without even a substantive or an acting commissioner of police. And I mean, this is totally shameful. But what we are seeing now, as Vernon just said, this is not about Gary Griffith. If it is that the Prime Minister did not want me, all it took is what apparently Prime Minister Keith Rowley lacks: communication. Just like in New York City, the mayor can appoint a commissioner of police. He appoints or fires a commissioner at his leisure, but the commissioner is not going to take operational directives or commands by the mayor. I stood firm on many things, but this government tried to impose on me. And we'd have seen it. This government seems to have an impression that the National Security Council is an operational arm to direct the police. It is not. There is no such thing as a National Security Council in our constitution. It is nothing more than a subcommittee appointed by cabinet to assist with funding for law enforcement. But you always hear him speaking as the chair of the National Security Council. I am going to appoint foreign officers to deal with DSS. I'm going to appoint men to look at FUL. I'm going to send reports to the PSC. And therein lies the problem. I stood firm and I prevented many things of blatant political
He don't have that authority.
interference.
He don't have that
Pardon?
authority. National Security
He did
Council.
not, and he seems offended when he's put in his place and he goes over the line. And it's similar to the Bayside situation last year. He was totally out of place to make a comment to try to influence police officers to arrest persons in their private property. If you wanted to do that, you had to go to Parliament, call a state of emergency, and then give the police that authority to do that without a warrant. I was not going to have Trinidad and Tobago suffer the same thing that we went through in 2011. And that is why in this state of emergency, there was not one report of any abuse of power by police officers. And that is what I stood firm for. Now, Keith Rowley had a different view. So when he made the statement, I exposed his ignorance in not understanding the law, which was amazing because you have an attorney general, you have another wannabe attorney general who's always whispering in his ears in every National Security Council meeting, that is Stuart Young. And you'll think that they would have told him, Gary is correct, you cannot, and the police cannot arrest persons in their private property. And by me saying that, his thin-skinned self, it affected him and it offended him. And then he had the audacity. Now, what they do is leak information. So you send a report to the PSC about it. You run to the spokesperson for the government, who's Rhea Tate, runs and gives it to her. You appoint somebody to do an investigation on firearms. And the individual never even held a gun in several years, practically, because he was working in New York in our commission. And then after you leak it to Rhea Tate, the PSC chairman tries to suspend me illegally. Rhea Tate gets it before I get the letter. And that is what they have done constantly, Vernon. That's my concern. If you wanted to fire me, go ahead. Or tell me not to reapply. But you put out a massive orchestrated campaign of character assassination full of lies to demonize and discredit me. Unfortunately, it totally backfired because the country did not take the bait, inclusive of the majority of PNM supporters and even members of parliament who said that if my name had gone up, they were going to put a conscience vote. And that is where it seems that Keith Rowley was concerned. And he had to insist that that merit list must never get to the corridors of parliament.
Yeah, may I just say something? Like a lot of other people, I have been following this thing from its inception. Because we get all the news here. It comes on the internet and what have you. Everything, blow for blow. So we know exactly what has been happening there. And I can't help feeling that there's somebody hiding in the manger. Somebody is involved in this thing who doesn't want people to know that he or she is involved. That's their business, you know. But what I feel, and I think I speak for a lot of people in Trinidad, if not the majority, is that all of this hullabaloo is happening. But who is suffering at the end of the day? The people of Trinidad and Tobago. Look at what is taking place in our country. All right, people are being murdered and shot down, people disappearing all over the place, and so on and so on. And we don't have a commissioner because of this, right? The public of Trinidad and Tobago want Gary Griffith to be the commissioner of police. All right, and the government of the day is saying, no, hell no, that is not going to happen, right? While this is taking place, right, Rome is burning. Trinidad and Tobago is in a terrible state. Right, and you have all this thing with the police, the prison officers being shut down. Let me tell you something. I worked as a criminal lawyer for 50 years. Don't you think the criminals are fully aware that Gary Griffith is no longer there?
Foot off the gas.
Yeah. Of course.
Foot off the gas.
And what does that mean, ladies and gentlemen? What the hell does that portend? I mean, at the end of the day, when all is said and done, you have to look at that. That is the nana of the matter. That's where the meat of the matter is, right? What is happening because of this Gary Griffith thing? This Gary Griffith fiasco. right, has ended up in the people of Trinidad and Tobago. They're afraid. I speak to people all the time, and they're terrified. The people don't want to leave their homes, right? And I mean, this is no good. And the quicker it is fixed and it is mended, the better for all. That is my view of that.
I have to ask a question for both of you. Summary Offences Act 109.
Yeah.
A person who desires to hold or call together any public meeting shall, at least 48 hours, but no more than 14 days before the day on which it is proposed to hold such meeting, notify the Commissioner of Police. And it says everything about the notification, but it says the Commissioner of Police. And everything in the law, even for the turning it down, if the Commissioner of Police, having regard to the time at which the circumstance in which the purpose for which any public meeting to be held has reasonable ground for apprehending that the holding. What I'm saying is this law 109 for public meetings requires a Commissioner of Police. What happens now?
Yeah. I know, but of course, let me tell you something. You see that some lawyer will pick that up and argue that the man who is the deputy commissioner really and truly is the commissioner, and so on and so on. And
is he the deputy? Is he an acting Commissioner of Police?
In my view, the answer to that is no. But what I'm telling you is that you will have that argument presented to you, you know. And so,
Gary?
but you know, yes.
No, I want him Gary to weigh in on that.
I think again it goes the same thing like closing roads, blocking roadways. Only the Commissioner of Police has such authorization. And again, it shows that the Prime Minister, he is not getting proper legal advice when he could say, without a Commissioner of Police, the police could keep on policing. That is not the case. There are going to be many issues, and it is going to affect national security. So that what you spoke about, Phillip, is just one of many. But what has happened back at the ranch, you would have listened to a press conference going on, and Phillip, and the country today. You would have listened to a media conference called by the Minister of National Security and DCP Jacob, in a situation where there have been over 90 more murders in the last 4 months than the same period last year. The first 6 months this year, there were 53 less murders than the 6 months last year, the first 6 months. 90 plus in the last 3 or 4 months. And then we have criminologists such as Darius Figueroa and King and these fellas saying that it's because of COVID. Well, guess what? There's still COVID. There's still the public health regulation. And you would have seen that dozens of persons have been killed in cold blood by the use of illegal firearms. Prison officers have been killed. And a Minister of National Security calls a media conference to state that they intend to have an audit, bringing in retirees from the police service who retired over a decade ago to do an audit about legal firearms. The legal firearms, by the way, was what just saved a bartender just a few hours ago when persons tried to rob him, and he had his legitimate firearm from the initial reports that we have that protected him. So we have a situation where hundreds of persons have been killed this year by firearms. Every single one has been by an illegal firearm, but we are hearing the police service now and the Minister of National Security stating that they intend to have equal relevance and significance in looking at legal firearms being issued to law-abiding citizens to protect themselves, in contrast to illegal firearms being used by criminal elements to kill persons. It shows when it is you have a Minister of National Security, as I said, he spent 30 years OJTing to prepare for a senior ministerial post. He finally gets it, and he is still politicizing his position. Instead of putting your focus on reducing crime, dealing with the issues, looking at what is taking place to measure performance, make police officers accountable, enhance their morale and motivation, you are spending all your time trying to find report after report, investigation after investigation on legal firearms when there is absolutely nothing to find, other than the fact that Gary Griffith was the one who exposed it, who formed 14 policies to stop police officers from manipulating the process, and you continue to spend more time dealing with, let us see if we could find something on Gary Griffith rather than dealing with the issues facing the country.
Yeah.
So what's the purpose of this FUL audit?
Pardon?
I beg your pardon?
What's the true purpose of this FUL audit?
Well, you see what happened, Phillip, is initially, again, one of the ministers whispered to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister then, again, believing that he's the chair of the National Security Council, appoints 2 persons to do an investigation into looking at FULs, which I alone could have given that authorization. And I did it because I realized even though he was out of place, they want to look for something, look for it. Because I'm the first commissioner of police that exposed and said openly there's serious issues with police officers at stations holding back FUL applications for extortion. And that is why I put 14 policies in place to prevent it. I put the FUL card with a chip to prevent all of this from happening. I formed a compliance unit. It affected police officers, so they whispered to the right persons in Parliament, and they whispered to the Prime Minister. So they said they wanted to have an investigation. The investigation came up, nothing. They had to hide it because the whole report by that individual was based on it is rumored, it is we have overheard, and hearsay and propaganda. They then went and got OLEP, the Organization of Law Enforcement Policy, who they do a report and they do a press conference to hand over a report to the Minister of National Security stating that there's a serious issue of firearms in this country. So they did a report to deal with the issue of legal firearms, when not one legal firearm issued by any legitimate firearm user's holder has ever been used in a crime, in a murder. None has been lost, none have been stolen. But they had the audacity that's what OLEP decided to do, not realizing that 100% of firearm-related murders were used by illegal firearms. And then after that, they then influenced the PSC to appoint retired Judge Stanley John to again come back with another investigation. And then after, obviously, there's nothing to find, they're coming up with another investigation again. And they will just keep doing it, Philip. It's the same thing like the Meritless and Vernon, that if it is they're not getting the results they want, they will keep regurgitating a new report, a new investigation, a new Meritless. That is the PNM's propaganda plan. Let us just keep doing something over and over until we get the results that we desire.
Gary, I'll tell you something. The taste of the pudding is always in eating. Eh? A lot of these people who are talking about firearm and so on, they don't know, they don't have the experience that I have had. I had a licensed firearm, right, given to me by the Commissioner of Police many years ago. And I had, as you know, I have to thank you for that afterwards. People come into my home, beat up my wife, right, virtually kill her. That's what they did, because she died 6 months later, right? And beat the hell out of me for the gun. And they kept asking, where's the gun? Now, I want to tell you something. I remember distinctly when I went to pay the firearm license a few months before in the St. Joseph police station. The man who took the money from me for the license, well, he had the book in a drawer. And it's just a drawer. And when he pulled it, it was an old book. And it was in this drawer. And I said to him, wait. That's where you have that book, right? He said, Mr. Glima, what do you want me to do? That's what they give me. What do you want me to do, right? So he said, look, just pay the license and go your way. And I did. But I always sought afterwards, because when the man hit me in the head with the gun and woke me up, he said, where the fucking gun? That's the first thing he said. Where the gun? Where the gun? Right? And so how would he say that unless he knew, he had confidence that I had a gun, because I always felt this, Gary, that he had inside information.
Somebody tipped him off.
But my dear good fellow, what do you want me to think? What do you want me to think? And they were persistent about it until eventually they got a damn gun. And by that time, they beat the hell out of me and Jennifer and left the scene. But the thing is, I go back to that. That is that's the practicality of what you're talking about, right? So I mean, I have heard what you are saying. I read what you have been saying, and I feel extremely concerned about this, because this affects. Let me tell you something. Yeah? As far as I'm concerned, what they're doing to you and what they have done to those two prison officers, it affects the national security of the whole country. That means everybody, you, Phillip, and your little child, and your wife, and me and my grandchildren, and everything. That is what you're talking about here. This is not about Gary Griffith alone.
But Vernon, I want to say this. For the first time in my memory, there was a commissioner of police. Now, I took a real hands off. I never really got involved in the details of Gary as commissioner of police. I went about Gary, defend him and everything. But the fact of the matter is, Everybody, before this show started,
Yeah, like,
my
you
mother
know, see,
called.
yeah, yeah,
She like a
I know.
fan. She just want to hear from Gary. All the ladies in the country. For the first time, and I'm saying this, we've had a commissioner of police where the people felt like, okay, of all the things that are wrong in this country, that one, we have something fixing that. Let's move on to
I
education.
agree with
Let's
you.
move on to
I told
healthcare.
people,
Let's move on to water in the pipes. Now we break that because the public, you didn't fire the commissioner of police. You didn't remove the commissioner of police because of public outcry. You removed the commissioner of police because you don't like how he behaves. The
yeah.
purpose of removing a commissioner of police is if he getting the job done or not. And
Not
I've
only
said,
that, not only that, but you shake confidence of the entire nation.
absolutely, absolutely.
And
But I
that is what
said
that's what you
the
do.
whole
You
time
know,
with the issue in the Meritless and all these articles in the Express, I heard more from the acting commissioner of police, Stephen Williams, in 2 weeks than we heard from him in all the years that he acted. And it
yeah.
was like, but it started to come across like a real get Gary conspiracy. And at the end of the day, this cannot be about personalities in an issue like commissioner of police in a country where you just said the national psyche, people are in total terror. We see a video where a little 4-year-old girl holding her daddy hand, car pull up, assassinate the man and drive off. This child run around like she didn't know what to do. That little girl is scarred for life.
I
I
agree
am
with you.
getting I am getting reports from other prisons officers who are scared to death. Wives of prison officers messaging me that they think their husband name on the list of prison officers to be executed. You didn't have a press conference to deal with that. You had a press conference to deal with auditing the firearms in the country, where for 50 years people talking about for you to get a firearm in this country, you had to know somebody to bribe. Where
Yeah.
did this come from, and where do they think it is going? This is what I want to ask. And I don't want to
No,
put
but
Gary on the spot, but where do they think this is? What is the end game here? That we will accept somebody else as commissioner of police? That you could gerrymander the appointment of a commissioner of police in the face of such widespread support for the last man in the job?
but
Well, you
I
see,
don't know. But you
Nicholas,
see,
this way it goes. This goes to arrogance. Again, going back to the Nigel Henry poll, when 11% of the population alone said they did not want Gary Griffith to return, and you see that 89%, instead of seeing it as the one thing that is working to help Trinidad and Tobago of at some degree of unification, you see that as a threat to you politically, and you see that as a concern, especially if it is fellow members of parliament on your side are saying that if you lift the whip, if there's a conscience vote, because I have a constituency to run, I believe that he could be of value. And again, as I said, gentlemen, it is not for me. If it is that you did not want Gary Griffith back, I would have left. And then you now will have to accept responsibility for what happens. And that is what is happening now. But instead of the government putting focus where it is supposed to be, again, goes back, you hold a press conference, not speaking about the prison officers who have losing their lives, the family members who are concerned. You have to disregard that because your priority is that you're too busy trying to find red herrings and run around seeing what you could find in the FUL department. That's what you spoke about, Vernon. That is where I formed and established the FUL card. That FUL card had a chip on it, and with the chip, it prevented this nonsense from the book because the book was something that was being used. It was staying in the drawers, and it was a big written book so that even television show hosts will be able to read it. So one of them actually openly said about my wife having a firearm. And that was the problem. But so the card would have been a swipe. So we'll know if you use your firearm, if you renew the permit, it will verify everything about you. And they decided to scrap the card after I implemented it when I left as commissioner of police. That was done, I see it as a deliberate intent to go back into the old school to find things of corruption that can be now allowed for windows to open for police officers to go back to what they were doing before. So I did things to prevent it. And instead, they turn around, whisper to government officials, and all of this government has been doing now is spending as much time, if not more, in dealing with having a concern with firearm holders having legitimate firearms, which again, I must add, not one legitimate firearm was stolen based on negligence, lost, a crime committed, or murder. So the thousands of persons who have been killed over the last few years have been by illegal firearms, and especially in the last few days where dozens of persons have been killed by illegal firearms, but you hold a press conference to boast about having an audit, bringing in retirees to look at FULs for legitimate firearm holders.
Vernon.
Gary, you know something? You know something? About a month after the incident with my wife and myself, a police car came up the hill to my house. Like a sergeant was in the car. So, Mr. Lima, we come to find out you don't want a gun. We give you take information, gun, you gun. I say, me, I don't want any gun again. Thank you very much. Right? You know why? Because I at that time I was absolutely certain in my mind. First of all, I couldn't understand why this man was anxious to give me a gun. Right? I had my gun for about 14 years and never had any incident and so on. And then I had this thing happen. And then this policeman is asking me, "Were you sure you don't want a gun?" You know what I said? No, I don't want any more gun. And so it was because of that. But you know, I tell you something, you have to be a very, very selfless thinking man, because for you to have applied for that job at all, and I was shocked, I don't mind telling you, when I heard that you had applied. But I know you did that because you realized what was going on in the country. And that had to be the only reason why Gary Griffith would have applied for that job. I'm not lying to you. Because it was a massacre taking place. And my dear good fellow, we have now reverted to it again. And every indication is that it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse, Gary.
Yep, good. And again, you're correct. When I applied for the position, people didn't understand why would I do that. I actually cut even the salary of the previous commissioner of police that was not a police officer by over $100,000. So it was not for money. I didn't need that. The fact of the matter is I did that because I realized if with this we can clean up the police service, it can go a long way to develop the country. When Stephen Williams Phillip, as you spoke about, on his last day on the 15th of August 2018, public confidence and trust in the police service was 14%, the lowest probably in decades. It went up to 44% after 3 years because the public started believing, because we started putting systems to measure performance, make police officers accountable, and the police officers themselves started getting a sense of pride, a sense of belief that they wanted to step out and do work. Not one police officer was absent during all of the work that we have gone through during the SOE, during the COVID period. Not one police officer abused his authority during a state of emergency. Compare that to 2011. And it showed that we were getting somewhere. Obviously, there would be senior police officers who did not understand the new systems for technology, systems to measure performance. And again, even going back to what we had before, we had systems of the 19 persons who lost their contracts. They helped me tremendously in the body cameras, the pepper spray, the tasers, the IT systems, the WhatsApp, the app reporting, the online reporting, cameras on the police vehicles, GPS tracking of police vehicles, Operation Command Center, Commissioner's Command Center. All of these things, all of a sudden, the days of you calling 999, you're spending half an hour, nobody's answering the phone, police officers don't have a vehicle. All of that changed. We provided a high visibility, a heavy deterrent, and it provided a big avenue. Now, let me state something very bold here. Have you all noticed that in the last 3 months, there's not been any situation of any armed conflict between the police and the criminals? Now, there's a reason for this. Police officers were not going to be involved in confrontation with any criminal element if they are not of the belief that if they do their job correctly, they are going to be protected by those in command. A few months before I became commissioner, there was some gangs had Shogunas under siege for 5 hours, just firing shots, and no policeman wanted to enter. When I became commissioner of police, I decided to take the fight to these criminal elements. And I said, with no street, no corner, nowhere belongs to you. And if it is you do something, we're going to come after you. And it happened. And the criminal elements backed off. They backed off whether because they saw it as bullying, as fear, as respect. It worked. And the police officers knew to themselves, if you aim at us, if you fire at us, we are coming after you in a hot pursuit. And if you confront us, we are going to shoot back. Now the police officers are not doing that. And guess what? So some people will boast and say, well, look, criminals are not being killed now. Thank God Gary is gone. But what it means, gentlemen, is the criminals are now saying, we know the police are not going to confront us. They are not going to challenge us. They are not going to pursue us. So we are going to kill people in broad daylight.
I'll interrupt you now because I'm getting multiples. I have video now, so I know that it's a fact. Another prison officer's house in Tunapuna was just shot up. He was shot in his hands. He's at Mount Hope. Gary, what happens if all the prison officers down tools tonight?
Well, and you will think that that was the priority for a Minister of National Security. But as I said, the man spent 30 years as a politician, OJT. Patrick Manning knew why he never gave him a senior post. You finally get a post. And all that the time you are spending doing is going through a campaign. This is the first commission. This is the first Minister of National Security in history that did not know who was the Commissioner of Police. When this man had the audacity to state that Gary Griffith is a civilian, he was so clueless. He did not understand at that time I was still the acting Commissioner of Police. It is just that I was on leave. So the 6 years when Stephen Williams was on leave, he was still the acting Commissioner of Police. But because you as a minister, everything you think about is the politics, the politics, the politics. So let us see if we could find something on Gary. Let us hunt down Gary. Let us form investigation. And back at the ranch, as Vernon said, Rome is burning. Instead of you putting focus where it matters, because what you're looking at, you're not going to find it because there's nothing there. And I could boast on that. But instead, you have prison officers suffering, you have the nation suffering, and you decide to have a media conference to boast about having an audit about legal firearms, which have been used constantly to help law-abiding citizens to prevent them from being killed.
Yes, and to add to all of that, let me tell you something that the public maybe they're not thinking about, and neither you, Philip. It is this, that while you take on that burden of Commissioner of Police and what have you and so, when you arrest somebody and you bring them to the court, it's taking 5 and 7 years for that person to get tried. I mean, come on, man. What the hell is going on here? You know, I was telling Philip earlier today that there are 2 cases going on here in the United States now. And the case that finished last week with the little boy and with the firearm, right? Those people, 9 months ago, they were charged. 9 months. The actor fellow was charged 3 years ago, but he was on bail. But the girl who is being charged or being tried in New York, right? She's 9 months ago she was charged, and the little boy with the gun, who pleaded self-defense last week, he was 9 months.
Rittenhouse?
Rittenhouse, right? 9 months. In Trinidad, that would have taken 10 years.
But look what's going on with the Dana Sita Hall matter. Where is that?
Poor Dana.
Yeah,
right?
High profile.
You know, I mean,
yeah, but we're not even going to your matter. If the police apprehended those individuals who went into your home, they would have been given bail and gone back out onto the streets to probably come and target you because you are the main witness in the crime that they committed to try to, and that has happened on many occasions.
Let me tell you, I'm glad you raised that, because I was doing a murder trial at the same time, right? I was the lead counsel in this murder trial, a big one with five people. And during the break, one day, two lawyers came to me. I wouldn't call their names; it wouldn't be right. And they said to me, "Vernon, did you see who did this thing to you?" So I said, "No, I really didn't see." They said, "For God's sake, don't say you're so, don't say you're so." And I wanted there was a senior counsel, wow. And I said to him, "Wait, hold on, partner. What are you telling me here?" He said, "No, I'm telling you, man. You're my colleague, right? Right? You know damn well if you say that." Right? Number one, if he don't come for you, he go send somebody for you, and so on and so on. I never forgot that. I went home and I told my wife, I said, "Look at what we have come to in this country." Right? And it is, yeah. I mention this because the public must know these things. Right? If it could happen to me, don't you think the ordinary man, Jack Bando in the road, right? It is happening to him and his wife and children. When they see, they damn well know who it is that committed the crime, but they will not say. How do you deal with that?
And that is where it is the importance, again, for reform. Someone is found with an assault rifle that can kill 35 persons in a few seconds. If he's held, he can get $10,000 bail and get back out on the streets, purchase another firearm to replace the one he lost. And everything that I have seen, I mean, even things that I pushed to deal with women, Vernon, I pushed heavily, and it started with my wife, Nicole Dyer-Griffith, about the system for pepper spray to be provided for women. I fought constantly. This government had the audacity to say, well, the criminals might take the pepper spray and spray it. It was easier to get a gun than illegal pepper spray out on the streets. After we pushed.
Pepper spray more lethal than a gun.
Yeah, well, and after we did everything, I put pressure on the government to ensure women can be protected, especially at least they will have some degree of support for escape. Still, after all, even if it was approved in Parliament, nothing has happened. I pushed heavily for women to get firearms, and now not one person could get a firearm. I opened the gender-based violence movement to protect women. I formed the sexual offences unit, Vernon, and I don't know if you all are aware. Before, what happens now is if a woman is raped, she might go into a station. The police officers, they are not trained. They might tell them to sit down on the bench, do not take a shower, spend several hours until CID arrive. We formed the sexual offences unit to deal specifically, so they'll have stations that will have the proper facilities for women who have been sexually assaulted and have proper training. That has also been scrapped. The gender-based violence I formed, and all of the things is because if people fear change, we'll have a police service that is still back in the mid-20th century.
Gary, a woman was raped.
Do you know, I just finished my book. I just finished the book that I was writing, and in it, I have a whole chapter about how we don't like women in Trinidad. Trinidad people, the men don't like our women. Right? I'm sorry to say that, right? Because they don't protect them. They do not protect them. You can't tell me that all of these little girls disappearing, some of them, good God, the family don't even know where they are. Even now, they don't know where they are. Right, and the thing is just merrily going on. They've got a stage where when you read the Guardian, I read the Guardian, and they stop calling it murder, right? They call it killings. They say, and it's all relegated to page 6 and 7, right? Front page is not good enough. Front page is, don't put that there. Put it in page 6. And last night John Thomas was killed, right? And he was shot. And so on and so on, but they don't use the word murder, right? So as a result of which, it seems to me, I'm subject to correction. It seems to me that the bandits are in charge of the situation in Trinidad.
Exactly.
So when you have that, and then you turn around and you fire the only one, or you want to fire the only man who really standing up and who has the entire country behind him, well, my God, is a kuyunad. As the old people will say, that's a kuyunad, a bullshit. I mean, come on. So I don't know how you view it, but I am alarmed by this thing. I can't believe it.
No, you see, honestly. I wanted to say just now because when Gary was talking about that, there was a story in this country where a woman was raped. She ended up at Diego Martin police station, stark naked. And they tell her she had to go and get clothes to come back to make the report. Yep. I remember when you started that one station policy, you could go in any station and make a report. So you don't have to find the correct station, and it was all searching for the correct station. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Vernon, you just made a very good point. But Gary, plenty people asking, what can the public do? People asking me, we've been fielding questions for the commissioner, and somebody asked, can this new FUL team that Hines is assembling cancel existing FULs? People concerned about that.
Well, again, right now, not one person, there are tens of thousands of persons who applied for variations. And with the variations now, they had to hand in their book. By handing in your book now, because the new, since I left, they're saying that the card is invalid. It means that if someone is held now with a legitimate firearm that they have, they can be charged. It is absolute madness. For the last 4 months, no law-abiding citizen could get a legal firearm to protect themselves because they've stopped it. But criminals are now just bringing in illegal firearms and building their arsenal. So obviously there's going to be a situation where evil is going to overwhelm good. And it is getting worse, and there's nothing else being done because of this stupid little witch hunt by individuals who, again, are so desperate to be political. Vernon, let me tell you, they have spent more time trying to deal with character assassination of Gary Griffith, which has not worked. They have thrown mud on my white shirt and it stayed. There was no stain on it. They tried everything. And the more they threw it, the more the public started buying into the fact that, really? You're really going with that? And they keep throwing investigation reports and everything. And then they have their media people. So Rhea Tate is the mouthpiece for anything that happens. Rhea Tate gets a leak of the NSC. Rhea Tate gets a leak of a letter from the PSC. Rhea Tate gets a leak of text messages Keith Rowley will send to me. Well, let me tell you something, gentlemen. If Keith Rowley feels that little boy attitude of sending private text messages between a commissioner and a prime minister, he sees it fit to go public. If I start to reveal text messages, there might very well be a snap election before the end of this year.
Hold
I just
that
leave it as
thought.
that.
Hold that thought. Both of you hold that thought. I need to do a little bit of housekeeping just to remind everybody this Thursday, we have a former colleague of Commissioner Griffith, Commander Garvin Hira. He's coming on Thursday night at 8 p.m. to talk to us more about national security and securing the nation. Next week, Tuesday, we're responding to the public call for Stephen Matheson, industrial relations expert. He'll be on next week, Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Of course, we have Gary Griffith, the People's Commissioner of Police and Senior Criminal Defense Attorney, Vernon Lima with us. And Vernon, I have to ask you this. Is this still a democracy? If the people hired a government through their vote, so the government is upheld by the power of the public's vote, and if the same people that hired the government wants to hire Gary Griffith, but the government that the people hire blocking Gary Griffith, is this still a democracy?
The people will answer that question, not Vernon Lima. The people are going to answer that question. I trust me, they will. And Gary, you know the expression there, but for the grace of God go I. Right? That is how a lot of people feel about you. I'm telling you. Because I have listened to them on the radio, and I listen to all the radios. I know who is for the government and against the government. To me, I am a Trinidadian, right? And I listen to everybody. And then one thing they can't say anything about Gary Griffith that is immoral, illicit, or in anything like that, right? So a lot of it is they admire you. A lot of the people admire you and they wish they could be like you. That is a fact, right? And Trinidad, we're in a place now where people are afraid of their shadows. I'm telling you, maybe you don't know that, huh? But there are a lot of people who say, boy, you know, you're going to write that, or you're for God's sake, man, you know what you're doing here. You better be careful, you know, you're rubbing the wrong shoulders and so on. You know, be careful and so. And that is what we have to deal with. And no better person can the people of Trinidad and Tobago have to champion but Gary Griffith. And whether you like it or not, that's the way it is. That's the way it is, right? And I would like, we're going to find out, you know, because I believe the voice of the people is the voice of God and what have you. That is so. And I believe in God. And I know you believe in God too, right? And God looking at this too, what's going on here, you know, right? Something in life is either right or is wrong. It ain't no half right and no half wrong, you know, partner, right? It is right or it is wrong, right? What they have done to you, in my respectful submission, is wrong. And turn it right, turn it left, flip it upside down, look underneath, or any way you want to put it, you can't justify that. What they did was wrong. And I only hope and pray to God that they rectify it. And rectify it as quick.
I know that we run out of time on MCTV. I have to take that as your closing comments. I'm going to give Gary equal time for his closing comments. And I need to say special good evening, good night to Isabella Rose, who is watching the show. And I've been told I have to mention her name on the show. Gary Griffith, give us your closing comments tonight. I have to ask you one more question that you have to put into that closing comment. People say that they have an article in the papers that say Gary Griffith political. What does that mean? Gary gone political
well,
now.
Political doesn't mean being involved in a political party. When I was first invited here, Philip, Philip and I went to the best school in Trinidad and Tobago, Vernon, St. Mary's College. So I know Philip decades now. And the first thing people jump up, oh, Gary and Philip going to join a political party. We put, and that, Philip, I'm glad you asked that question because it goes with my closing comment. Every single thing that happens and we do in this country is based on politics. So people were telling me, why are you going on that show? It will show that you and Philip are now forming a political party. I said, what madness is this? I said, Philip is one of many media hosts, and he has asked me to come on, and I will, and I there's nothing wrong with it. Philip is not, he's not the Al-Qaeda, but it goes, Philip, to my closing comment. Going back, Vernon, to that 89% of the public, and it's a 4% margin of error. So virtually for every 10 persons, one did not want me. What is going to happen now? Because Keith Rowley has openly shown that he has put a line in the sand to say, look, Gary Griffith is person non grata. and we don't like Gary Griffith. That 89% could move now to about 75%. And you know why? It has nothing to do with that 14, 15% of persons saying, well, I don't think he's a good commissioner. I don't think he'll make a good commissioner. It's because Keith Rowley says so. I am begging this country, get out of this system where you feel that because the Kamala or the Rowley or the PNM or the UNC says so, we have to join and we have to support. You must have a mind of your own. Are you worried about your son being kidnapped, your child being raped, your assets being lost, you being murdered? Think yourself first, because when it is you make these decisions aimlessly to support your political leader and your party, it does not help you. Gwen and I were there at a period where there were 147,000 floating votes, that third constituency. Those persons who neither red nor yellow, they see right and wrong. They see what is good and what is bad. That floating vote went from 91,000 in 1981 under the ONR. It went to 127,000 in 1991 under the NAR. It moved to 147,000 in 2007 under the COP. And it is growing. So it is obvious it is now over 250,000. I would like, it shouldn't just be that. That is the pendulum that the PNM likes. They like that third constituency to form a party to split the votes so that they will win. The UNC likes that group to join with the UNC to annihilate the PNM. Stop using those floating voters. What I ask is for the country, we want to be political and make decisions based on what is right and wrong, not what is better for Keith Rowley or Kamala or the PNM or the UNC. Do what is right for you, your family, and your country.
I have to say a special thank you to both of you gentlemen. This was a massive show tonight. They will be picking it apart for weeks to come. Trinidad and Tobago is still well served to know that they have these many alpha dogs outside there willing to stand up and speak out and give people an option. We are going to continue onto social media after this, and we'll be opening the phone lines on social media to take your calls as we close off this show on MCTV tonight. And we'd like to thank everybody on the cable channels who have been watching us. We're going to take a break now. Thank you, gentlemen, very much for joining us.
Thank you. Good night. Take care.
It's Christmas at Darren's Air Conditioning Services. Darren's Air Conditioning Services. Professional services at affordable prices. They have air conditioned units, Wi-Fi ready, starting at $2,650 with free delivery and installation. We supply Pioneer, Lennox, Comfy, and Infinity. All at unbeatable prices. Servicing of a 12,000 BTU, only $150. Don't forget to check them out on Google, Facebook, and Instagram. Darren's Air Conditioning Services. Professional services at affordable prices. Contact Darren's Air Conditioning Services at 749-8245.
Antel is Trinidad's most reliable and technically experienced ICT company, providers of quality structured cabling, Cat6 data fiber, and power cables. We also stock cabling infrastructure basket-type cable trays for server rooms and data centers. Antel also installs and maintains video security systems including cameras, alarms, and electronic entrance locks for businesses and residential properties. Call Antel 674-1406 or 783-9250.
Well, here we are. We're back inside. And again, I want to thank Gary Griffith and Vernon DeLima, two guys that I have been proud to serve alongside in the past, two guys that I will be proud to serve alongside in the future. Big dogs, lions, alpha males. Trinidad needs more people with that level of courage and conviction and passion and knowledge to stand together. We are going to be opening the phone lines to talk about this and a lot of other things, the protests that took place today. We have a lot of things to address. Today, a protest took place in the Savannah that if I were the prime minister, I would know that the next protest that is called will be in the tens of thousands. I also want to remind Trinidad and Tobago that we will be serving the petitions on the Parliament at the next sitting of Parliament. We are on standby and waiting, and that will be filmed live and broadcast around the world. The Andrea Barrett petition that calls on the government to take action to protect our women, that's happening, and we are on standby for that. In a week where middle-class parents and children came out and circled the entire Savannah, Trinidad is unhappy. Vernon de Lima said Trinidadians are scared out of their minds. We don't know who to be more afraid of, the bandits or the government, and enter into that a conversation where we had a functional commissioner of police and the prime minister blocking. We have the highest deaths per million from a disease where the people responsible for fighting our disease are not the best medical professionals we have. We have the highest kill rate in the world. Violence, murder. We have tracking how many of our people have gone missing, human traffic. The last admission we got was when Dillon was National Security Minister, and he admitted 57 of our women were abducted, kidnapped, bound, and trafficked. Never said where, never said what was being done. After him, we had Stuart Young. After Stuart Young, we had Fitzgerald Hines. We still have no continuity in that conversation. So those 57 girls, those 57 women, those 57 mothers, daughters, sisters, wives that the Ministry of National Security knows were kidnapped and trafficked, we've gotten no updates. How can this be a real country when the media is selling us fish paper instead of facts? We need to know what's going on in all of these issues. And today, the activists came out in their numbers. I saw a lot of people that working in the trenches, that fighting for a better Trinidad and Tobago. And I was proud to be among them today. That was not our event, but I was proud of it because, and I'm proud to stand with all activists, and I say so. So if you're having a walk and you're having a march and you're having a gathering, once it's lawful or once it is doing what is right for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, I dare with you. I'm not in the bacchanal for bacchanal's sake, and you know that, because somebody has to clear space outside of the madness. And we have to be ready, us as a people of Trinidad and Tobago, to make right political choices, because if we continue to make wrong political choices, ignoring the fact that voting has consequences, we end up where we are. A prison officer's house was just shot up. I have another prison officer whose wife is messaging me, who's saying that her husband is afraid for his life. A prison officer was just shot in his hand. Another one was shot yesterday. Where is the government on that? Because all the stunts that they're stunting, all the hand they're holding is because they're trying to fool Tobagonians into feeling this is a government of love. This is not a government of love. Hate is the PNM. Hate is the PNM. Hate is the PNM. Today, police officers arrested a 69-year-old granny and throw in a bus to make a point. What was your point? Did you have power? What happens when the pendulum swings the other way? Are we going to have our police and the taxpayers pay fighting with the citizens who pay the police? Is that where we're going? Is that really where we're trying to go as a nation? Doesn't this government yet realize that they've run out of their mandate? And the best way to send that message to Tobago, and I've said this repeatedly, I may not know Watson Duke as well as I'd like to know, and I'm sending a call out now for Watson. If you are hearing this, or if somebody could get this message to Watson Duke, give him my number, 682-2110, because we would like to have Watson Duke on this show before the election to talk about PDP. But I want to tell the people of Tobago something. Everything that the PNM is telling you that you might be afraid of, that you might encounter under a PDP THA, we don't know. I tell you this for certain. everything that is wrong in Tobago, everything that is criminal, everything that is corrupt, everything that is broken, everything that doesn't work is because of the PNM. I've said today, more people have left Trinidad and Tobago because of the PNM than there are people who vote for the PNM. And it's time for us to stop escaping from our country because of a failed government. It is time for us to vote that government into the dustbin of history. The PNM has had too many chances. We know them now. We see them from far. We know what they're capable of. This is not a if. This is not a maybe. Hate is the PNM. Promises never materialize. I have information from Lake Asphalt that what we get as the mix for our roads is deliberately skewed because of corruption. That's why our roads can't last. Trinidad is a broken nation because of who we vote for. We are not going to fix the things that need fixing as long as we continue to vote for those people. I'm going to be opening these phone lines and I'm going to be taking your calls. When you call, please listen on the phone, not on the device that you're watching me on. Because if you try to listen to me on the device that you're watching me on, there is a delay. And then you'll delay the call and you'll frustrate us both and I'll have no choice but to hang up. Listen on the phone that you're calling me on so that when it answers, you get to talk. All right? We do not take calls from block numbers because we don't encourage trolling and sycophants. When you call, just say where you're calling from and make your contribution. We're going to take a short break to get ourselves... No, we're not ready. We're going to take a short break to get ourselves ready. When we come back, we'll be taking your calls.
Unique Woodworking Trinidad Limited and Unique Lumber and Construction Guyana Incorporated are premium manufacturers and exporters of high quality bifolding sliding and pocket door systems, fire rated doors, windows, operable louver shutters, hardwood floors, staircases, architectural moldings, and toughened laminated glass. Unique Group of Companies also supply kiln-dried greenheart, mahogany, cedar, and teak for both residential and commercial projects, locally and regionally. Our logs are cut and shipped by Unique Lumber Guyana and dried in our computerized kiln at our factories facilities in Trinidad. Visit our showrooms to see the quality, which makes us unique.
It's Christmas at Darren's Air Conditioning Services. Darren's Air Conditioning Services. Professional services at affordable prices. They have air conditioning units, Wi-Fi ready, starting at $2,650 with free delivery and installation. We supply Pioneer, Lennox, Comfy, and Infinity. All at unbeatable prices. Servicing of a 12,000 BTU, only $150. Don't forget to check them out on Google, Facebook, and Instagram. Darren's Air Conditioning Services. Professional services at affordable prices. Contact Darren's Air Conditioning Services at 749-8245.
682-2110, we're back. And again, the phone started ringing from the moment we said we opened the lines. But we're back. So feel free to call in and join us. Let me say thank you again to Vernon Dilema. He is one of the, I want to say, I'm getting a chance to say it. Hello, good evening. You're live?
Good evening, Phillip. This is Aram West calling in.
Good
You
evening.
have all the outstanding points. The problem was the PNM. The problem now is the PNM, and the problem in the future will always be the PNM.
Can't be in the future.
Somebody-
If we vote them out, they can't be in the future. Let's look.
In fact,
Let's look for a future where the PNM don't exist and they sell that Balize house building to Samga to come and sell cloth. Let we get the PNM out of the politics business. Take them out of the
Exactly.
future.
And I agree. One of the ways we have to do that is that for one person to take the team and burn down Balize house. Good night, Phillip. God bless.
You cannot say that. You cannot say that. No. Don't do that. Don't do that. I'm gonna stop taking calls. No. I'm not gonna take any more calls. And I'm rejecting calls. Aranguez, you can't do that. And I want to say emphatically to Trinidad and Tobago, I want to say emphatically, I will never support violence. I will never support lawlessness. I will always stand for democracy and what is right and what is lawful and truthful and just. Please do not use this platform for that. Trying to get one of these calls. Hello, good evening, you're live.
Hi, good evening, Phillip. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. I took part today in the march in the savannah,
right,
and it was so disgusting witnessing these big armed policemen with assault rifles bullying old constables. I have seen in the past where armed policemen were in Labantil and Beatam and Silat, tending to police shootings of criminals and criminals all up in their face, threatening them, and nobody had been arrested. What I witnessed today was total bullying of our citizens. And this can't continue.
No, I'll tell you this. The next time there's 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 people, they will have to approach it differently. We cannot get this as our situation, but the people of Trinidad and Tobago have rights. So the government has to understand that. There has to be a middle ground. It can't be that because people gathered and were protesting peacefully that you're going to send police and lock them up. That is not fair, and it is sending the wrong message. Thank you for your contribution, my friend. Hello, good evening, you're live.
Hello, good evening, Phillip.
Yes.
I am calling from Arima. I'm a proud member of the Citizens Union. I have my card right here. I have a burning question that I wanted to ask for the longest while. Regarding the health ordinance, in particular, the one regarding the COVID health situation. If memory serves me right, when it was passed, it wasn't passed using a 3/5 majority.
It doesn't require a 3/5 majority.
It does not require a 3/5 majority.
No, there are a lot of loopholes in our constitution. There are a lot of back doors for them to frustrate the constitution. All these things have to fix. It's not going to be fixed by the people who benefit from it or who have written it that way. But thanks a lot for your contribution.
Okay then. Yeah.
Hello, good evening, you're live. Yeah, caller from Aranguez. Come on. I know you know better, and I know you let your passions get ahead of you. Trying to understand what this person sent me. (682-2110). Hello, good evening. You are live. Keep it sensible.
Mr. Alexander, good night, sir.
Yes.
I was one of those that participated in the march today. All right. I find it to be very abusive, and I pity it a lot because you're seeing little black boys armed to the teeth, backed by the state, to come out, harass, molest, and to lock up people, law-abiding citizens. And by the way, the people out there that were protesting, they were protesting for these very same police officers that are under various conditions. What they don't realize is that when the time reach and they themselves would want support, because they are not exempted for what is taking place.
I need to say this there, right? And this is the problem I have with us rushing to the protest part of the thing. Because we've not yet created an opportunity where all the people could stand together and we don't have to come outside and raise our fists and raise our voices. Not everything has to be that. And I'm saying that because we've not gotten to a place where we've instilled the confidence in the public that we are a united nation. And until we are a united nation, all of these protests are only going to end badly. I understand the point that you're making, but the police officers and the soldiers and the Coast Guard people, like the nurses, the doctors, and the teachers, and everybody else, when they take off their clothes at the end of the day, they're a citizen just like you, and they're subject to all of the problems in this country just like you. You're not wrong. You're absolutely right. What I'm saying to you is,
go ahead.
What I'm saying to you is this: that a united voice is far more powerful than us gathering and raising our fists. This is just putting our people against each other. I listened to those inspectors today. They spoke to me in the savannah. They tried to explain to me that they are bound by their job. We can't put them in a position where they could get fired or they could get disciplined because they're not doing their job.
So let's stick a pin right there. Stick a pin right there.
Pin stuck.
And this is the problem that we have in Trinidad and Tobago, the level of covetous and selfishness that have we in this mess today. The question should be asked, which one you prefer? You want a better nation, or you prefer to hold on to your job that you may not have probably for the next 2 to 3 years?
No, but you see, I'm letting you say these things. But if you are a long-serving police officer with good record who has given your life to this career, you have your wife or your husband and your children and your family and your mortgage and your bill to pay for your furniture and your groceries to buy this week. I mean, we look at police and we treat them like they're a different species almost. But this is what I was trying to explain to you just now. So don't get me wrong, I'm unsticking my pen. I want to tell you, we have to treat all the people of Trinidad and Tobago like they are you. Like they are your children, like they are your parents. We have to treat everybody like they are we. And when we make this a we thing, we're going to get through and do this thing properly. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I totally agree.
Thank you, my friend.
I totally agree.
Have a lovely
one more thing that I want to say quickly, because there are other people on the line, is that the PNM has developed an appetite for stealing elections.
Now, I have to stop. We will stop.
And
we have to call on Tobago. Call on everybody.
No, I hear you, but I'm saying that if an election was to be called 2 to 3 times and they find themselves back there, what do we do then as a
All right, so let me say this for everybody, okay? So I'll answer you off here, but let me say this for everybody so everybody understand this. Financial protest is the most powerful protest you could ever protest. Nobody in no business want to know that their business shut down and it is shut down. And I'm not talking about a shutdown like the government shut down for COVID-19, because the banks were still operational, so the banksters were still making money, and Massy stores were still operational, so they were making money, and PriceSmart was making money. And I want to say, the point I'm trying to make is, if we unite ourselves as one people under one flag and we stand down, you have to stand up every time. Sometimes we could stand down and we can say, you know what? You want to sell your coffee, come and mix your coffee. You want to run the banks, you come and operate the teller cage. You want to run the grocery, you come and cash. Because when they realize that the people of Trinidad and Tobago understand that they have all of the economic power, and I mean all, then all of these things will change. And that's where we need to go. Long before we gather to raise our voices and clench our fists. Hello, good evening, you're live. Hello, good evening, you're live. Sorry, you hearing me?
Hey, hi, good night, Phillip. How are you doing?
Good.
This is a first time caller, right? I wanted to find out something, right? And I don't know how, or I hear no media house ask this, right? It's pertaining to the police service board, right? Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening to you.
Yeah. How I heard the Prime Minister stating, right, that the police service, the President and the Prime Minister acted within the Constitution. So people are studying if the police service, the Prime Minister and the President acted within the Constitution. Why does the whole board resign? How come nobody can tell us if you acted within the Constitution and everything was perfect? Why did the board resign?
We know why.
What is the reason for the board resigning?
We know why the first Police Service Commission collapsed. But you see, what happens is you're living in a world where legal and lawful don't necessarily have to mean right. Slavery was legal and lawful. Apartheid was legal and lawful. There have been a lot of other abuses against humans that are legal and lawful. And Trinidad and Tobago's constitution absolutely needs amending and right-sizing and fixing to protect the people of Trinidad and Tobago. A lot of wrong was done under the guise and imprimatur of right with this government and this Police Service Commission. And the reason it is pulling the government down is because the people of Trinidad and Tobago, not just the people on the ground, but people in high society, people in high position, realizing what this PNM tried to do, and it reeks to high heaven. Hello, good evening, you're live. Hello, good evening, you're live. And that's the point. That's the point. That we are seeing the beast for what it is. We're seeing the demons. We're recognizing it now. We have a voice. Social media has given us a voice. We're brave, we're bold, we're courageous now. We're not just patriotic and passionate. We're set on fire for a better country. It is a mass of people outside there. And while the corporate 1% owned media would like to try to make people feel like they don't have a voice, I want to tell you something. You have the roar of a lion. If you stop shopping at certain businesses, they go out of business. We showed you with Kiss Baking Company and how they had to roll back on their prices. We showed you with Mighty Massey stores when they tried to pull Ramsaran off the shelf. It didn't last as long as the Red House fire. We showed you with the Oval and Sunshine Snaps. Both of them had to back down and let Jumbo come back in the Oval and sell his nuts. You have the power. You have the financial power of running this entire country. You need to know how to wield it. Hello, good evening, you're live.
Hi, good night.
Good night. Are you hearing me? Listen on your phone, not on the device.
I'm listening to you. Just have a delay.
No, you shouldn't have a delay on the phone. Listen to me on the phone. Talk to me on the phone.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
First time caller, calling from Barataria.
Welcome.
Now I'm a young voter, not a person who votes whichever party, whatever, but I would listen to how the politics would go and I would vote according to my conscience. Just a few things to touch on. I know that you had a program this earlier with Gary and the lawyer. And respectfully, I understand, all of the views and so on. And as a young looker, looking at all of these politics, I must say that it's quite disheartening as a young man growing up, knowing that this is the struggle that a generation has to come up to. It's really, really tough.
Caller, I need to interrupt you before you make me start to cry. I want to tell you something. You living in an exciting time, You're living in the time that history will record when the people of this country stood up for the first time in its 59 years of independent history and changed it and molded and made it into the country that they wanted. You are not a victim. You are a citizen, an heir, an inheritor, an owner, a stakeholder, a shareholder in Trinidad and Tobago. What you need to do is change your attitude. Snap yourself into an attitude of action. Come and join with us, the Citizens Union, join the Progressive Empowerment Party, start your own movement. But
well,
don't accept...
I have been a person who has been paying attention to your program a bit. Sometimes
I'm not trying to pull you into my
something.
Don't worry about that. I'm not trying to pull you into my thing. I'm just saying that you have options, and you also bright enough that you could build an option and you could try something new. Because this little guy, taller than me, David Welch, that they arrested again today. David Welch at 21 or 22 is one of my heroes. This boy is giving his heart and soul and his body to Trinidad and Tobago. And he is somebody that if you don't want to follow me, follow David Welch and Trio or Trio TT. Follow him. Go on, follow.
I have a few things I may want to touch on.
Yeah.
Now, I also, even though that I may receive young, I pay quite attention to what happens in terms of parliament and so on. And just to point out a few blunders, if I may call it that. So recently, since we're on the topic of vaccinations and whatever that may be taking place in the weeks, the minister would have stood up in the parliament and said that, results you receive results in 24 hours. And then, of course, the Honorable Stuart Young would have said that it has a lapse of 5 days. Point taken, no problem. So there was a time where I wasn't well. I had a few coughs and, protocols. The minister said, once you have symptoms, you quarantine, you go get tested. Now, Philip, this has been 18 days waiting for results for a test that was done 15 days ago. So things like that, I try to understand.
I want to ask you this.
What else?
No, I want to ask you this, right? If you don't mind, this same number that you call me on, send me a WhatsApp for all the things that you're concerned about, because I want to help you and I want to guide you, but more importantly, that you move to get involved and add your voice. I think you need to go one step further, and I'd like to help you do that too. Trinidad needs you, and you need all of us. And if we stood together, we could fix all of these things together. If I could get you to believe that, we could start moving to a better country for all of us.
No problem. I would message you.
Thanks a lot for calling.
All right, thanks for having me.
682-2110. We take a couple more calls. We have a lot of WhatsApps. The shooters dropped their guns. I mean, the country gone mad. If you're interested in advertising on this show, we get massive numbers. The nights we need tens of thousands. If you're interested in advertising on this show, reach out to Felicia Holder at 769-4590. And yeah, let me just take this call. Sorry. Hello, good evening, you're live.
Yeah, hello, good night, Philip.
Yes.
I was looking at your program tonight with Gary Griffith and Bernard Dilemma.
You sound just like the last caller. You related?
No.
You sound just like
the thing, yeah? I listen to Gary, yeah? And Gary have a real good stand-up point here. The man talk real sense. Real sense. Now, from where I understand it here now, everything was just to get Gary Griffith out of political control the whole police service. Because, let me tell you something here, Philip, I from Shoguners West, alright? And I understand and know that the police sending by the busload of police, all in Felicity and things, to check people back for vaccination card and checking patrons and for vaccination card and things. So I want to figure out now if it is the police and manpower to do that. And when people get shooting inside the road next to the 4-year-old child, police can't hold them fellas and them. I trying to figure out this thing because when the police really, where they getting paid to do? They getting paid to check people vaccination card or they getting paid to hold criminals?
Yeah, but you're answering your own question. And what you have going on is that we are in a hostage situation and the government is using the authority of our state and our government to do their own will, and that is what we need to stand together against. But I want to thank you for calling because I had to take another call, okay?
All right, no problem.
Hello, good evening, you're live.
Yes, good night. I'm calling from St. James. I called several times before. Right. But I have a question, right? A question that I'm not really asked by the media, right? The question is, right? Every Saturday, you hear the health minister come in and talking about how overworked the hospital staff are and all this kind of stuff, right? My question is it right that he come in and talking about telling everybody vaccinate because we overworking the staff, we flooding the system, but it have hundreds of student nurses whom, when the country was in a pandemic, in a state of emergency, he didn't call out the doctors and nurses who are unemployed right now, or even
it was a lie.
I
was the person who exposed that it was a lie. When they call a parallel health sector, it was to fool people into believing that you set up another health sector alongside the health sector we had. What they did was they cut the existing health sector in half. Now, our first health sector couldn't handle Trinidad and Tobago under normal conditions prior to 2020. Prior to there being a COVID-19, Trinidad and Tobago's public health system was in pre-collapse. So when they did this and cut it in half, you had 50% or less of the people to serve all the other illnesses and conditions. What Terence Deyalsing is a tap dancing liar. Keith Rowley is a double-tongued deceiver, and the two of them are members of a party that is abusing authority and taking advantage of the people. There are people who don't understand, and they don't understand that they don't understand because they're led astray by this government. And that's why we work so hard to bring information to the public. But thanks a lot for calling, my friend.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Have a good night. Hello, good evening, you're live.
Hello?
Yes, hello. Listen to me on the phone. Listen to me on the phone.
Yeah, I'm holding the line.
Good night. You hearing me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
listening
hello,
to
good
you.
evening.
I'm listening to you. Please listen to me on the phone that you're trying to talk to me on.
Okay, sorry, this I'm a first time caller.
No problem at all, but there's a delay between the phone and the broadcast on Facebook.
All right, I catch it now.
Okay.
Now, I was just arrested, or I was arrested earlier today. I was arrested earlier today at a rally. Now, I just want to make my voice.
Did they charge you?
But yes, charge and all of that.
What did they charge you with?
My voice heard about something.
Please, let me just ask you a question. What were you charged with?
About breaking the COVID regulations.
You have a document that they gave you with the charge on it?
Yes, I do.
Could you read that for me?
Let me differ a little bit. I want to make a statement. I really would like to make a statement.
I will humor you. Please do not use it to break the law. Thank you.
Sorry?
I will allow it, but don't use the broadcast to break the law, because that's not a good thing, right?
No, I'm not going to break the law.
Good.
Here's the thing. I have made an observation since the beginning of this whole COVID pandemic. And what I have found is that our government, for some reason, seems to be pursuing the path that will ensure that we fail at every juncture that we try to attack this virus and this pandemic. We are doing things which defy explanation. The only explanation could be that the government is being incentivized in some way or the other.
That's what everybody believes.
That it really sacrifices the interest of the population.
My friend,
now,
that's what everybody
and
believes.
this is tantamount almost to treason.
Yes.
And I would say that we have examples all over the world of government. We have India kicking COVID behind with ivermectin. We have
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to say that you're stating a lot that we say on this show every night. I want to talk to you about your getting arrested today, and I want to tell you that that was wrong. That as a citizen of this republic, you're supposed to have rights. And I want you to message me if you could, please, because I'd like to know if you have legal representation, because if you don't, the Citizens Union would like to help you. Okay?
Of course.
WhatsApp me right after you hang up with me here, and I want to get you in connection with our legal team and see what we could do to assist you. What happened to you and everybody else that they arrested today was wrong, and we need to deal with that. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, my friend. I apologize to those who are trying to get through, who didn't get through, and if you could try again, and I'm sorry that we are trying to get another system where we could take many more callers, and we're working on that. And if you want to help Satish Ramsaran with that, 796-8172, and especially to our overseas members and supporters, if you would like to help us, we need to get a multi-phone system that takes multi-SIMs, so we can have multiples of numbers, so we can take multiples of calls and have them queued and waiting. Instead of you all hearing all these incessant beeps, this is just what we have to work with for now. We need advertisers on this show because we were a Thursday night show. We're now Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the more advertisers that come on board is the more we could take all of these messages and bring all of these voices. You're going to hear from Commander Garvin here on Thursday. You're going to hear from Stephen Matheson on industrial relations and everything that you need to know on Tuesday. And these are people that don't get a chance to give the people of Trinidad and Tobago the knowledge to take you from powerless to powerful, because information is power. And once you're informed, then you know that if the government is talking nonsense to you, they can't lie to an informed and educated population. And that is our role. It has always been our role to inform, educate, and empower. And if you could help us by advertising on the show so that we could take the show nightly, it would help us to get that done. 769-4590. Let me take this call. Hello, good evening, you're live. Oh, we just lost it. And I am apologizing again to everybody. So if you could try back, we'll take you back. We need your financial help on these shows. 769-4590, Felicia Holder. You could speak to her and her team. And all of the people that you see advertising on this show tonight, to all of the viewers, please give them your support. Go and spend your money by them because they want to help you. They are taking the time to spend their money in ways that can help you. Help them in return. Hello, good evening, you're live.
Hi, good night, sir.
Good night.
I am calling in connection with your program. I'm calling from South. And I'm wondering about the judges in the country too. And I know there is the Corporal Punishment Offenders Act. The judges can impose strokes on people who commit crimes of something like grievous wounding with a firearm or sharp object, things of that nature, and even down to violence, aggravation, rape, incest, and murder. And I heard our learned counsel talking about the fact that the criminals are afraid to be flogged.
Yeah.
And I am wondering why it is, you have these people committing crimes and they are afraid of certain things that you can implement according to the law here, and it's not being done. So these people are, I listened to you talking about a criminal who was a murderer. But you see him in the jail, but you can't take them strokes. So people, the thing is, the judges need to implement strokes for rapists and for murderers and so on, if that is a deterrent. The other thing too is the whole issue of the death penalty. The death penalty is on the law books, and why it is not enforced within the 5-year period?
Because we keep failing at it.
Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj, get them to hang 5 or 10 or 9 of these guys from the Bolshevik gang in under 5 years. So they have to introduce Patton Morgan and all that stuff. Why did we have 800 murderers in the death row and they all languishing there, and we paying them to we had to pay $23,000 every day to mine on them?
Everything that you're saying has an answer, and I want to tell you, when it comes down to incompetence and failure at the level of government, it has to be deliberate incompetence, because what you're saying, they know, and I know that they know. So it has to be deliberate incompetence, and it has to be for a purpose and a reason. Because of Pratt and Morgan and for Ramesh to hang those people when he was Attorney General, Trinidad had to resign from organizations that we were signatories to, if you remember all of that drama that all of that caused. But if somebody is motivated to get the job done, they would. When Chief Justice Michael de Labastide was Chief Justice in Trinidad and Tobago, we cleared the backlog to the point where an appeal court judge told me that if you got a conviction this morning and you wanted to appeal it, you could have walked across the corridor after lunch and the appeal court would be ready to hear you. So if you wanted the country to work, it could work. And if they wanted the country to work, it would work. But it is deliberate incompetence designed to frustrate and fail the nation so that they could continue to steal and rob with impunity. But I want to thank you for making your contribution.
Yeah, my point is that's why perhaps if the criminals knew that they could go in jail and they could live a happy life, they will commit crime all the time. Because if they are allowing and they have the law to guide them, they have the law to guide these people as well. So the fact is, the sheriffs are separate arm from the executive. So all we have to do with what's going on in the court. The people in the court need to implement what is required by the law.
I think
if you start hanging murderers in the morning, if you hang 5 or 10 murderers in the morning, the show time will finish. Because they know they're going in there, they think they are not afraid.
No, but caller,
So the whole
the issue comes the issue comes down to political will. The judiciary and every aspect of trying to be, you tell me there was separation of power, but everything is reflective of the political will. When you said that the Attorney General of the UNC under Bastio Pandey hanged the Dolce gang, you hear what you're saying? That was somebody motivated to get them through all their appeals and to get everything done. Somebody who understood the system, who made the system work for him. Okay? And I'm telling you that for that to work, the Attorney General who is sitting there now, the politically appointed Attorney General, he has the same powers and he has the same abilities. So he should. But thanks a lot for your call. Hello, good evening, you're live. Someone is calling in and they just... Sorry, 7968172. Felicia Holder, 7694590. If you want to assist Satish with the call-in system, 7968172. And again, we are appealing for advertisers for the show. We would like to take the show nightly. And if you would like to be a part of that, tens of thousands of our members and viewers would like to come and spend money in your company. Hello, good evening, you're live.
Hello, good evening, Phillip. This is your call from Vancouver, Canada. It's been a while since I've spoken to you.
Welcome.
Yeah, there was something I was kind of wondering about. Why is the government, by virtue of the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and his medical team, blaming the unvaccinated citizens for the poor state of the healthcare system in Trinidad and Tobago? I mean, he exposed the fact that they only have 60 ICU beds.
He didn't expose
so let's
that.
Take a step
I did.
back.
I exposed that fact. They wanted you to believe otherwise. And the reason they do that is because the Prime Minister is very good at laying blame at other people. Narcissists do that. That's gaslighting in the extreme. We have a Prime Minister who uses the Parliament and the media to showboat and fling his frame. And that's why I laugh at him publicly. And if you had one intelligent person in the media who would take him apart, he wouldn't do it. But they can't because they're too dependent on the job. So we have that whole big circular ring of incompetence that is answering to the people. He could blame it on the moon, the stars, the rats in the road. It doesn't matter. His audience are limited to what they tell them to believe.
Well, all right, let's take this further. Let's eliminate COVID-19. Forget there's ever a pandemic in Trinidad and Tobago and in the world. A hurricane comes through Trinidad, or an earthquake, an 8.0 Richter scale earthquake hits Trinidad and shakes the island for 1 minute straight. And thousands are hurt and injured. How many ICU beds does Trinidad have?
But you see, I don't know why you're going to ask that point now. Because when I bust that mark 6 weeks ago, it embarrassed them into running and buying 52 more beds to say we have 104. But too late will be the cry. We have 48 ambulances. I've been telling Trinidad and Tobago for the past 10 years. And Trinidadians have been complacent and Trinidadians have listened. And from one Minister of Health to the other. And we've been talking about this. Public health is one of the reasons there's a Progressive Empowerment Party. It's one of the issues that we've championed from the start. But until the people of Trinidad and Tobago start to care enough about each other and not wait for it to become an issue personal to them, when people say, but wait, this is not good enough, I want better for my country, in case I ever need it, I want it to be better too, then we'll get somewhere. But until then, we could all talk facts, we could fling facts at it. It doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter.
All right, now, another question I wanted to ask, I've actually probably WhatsApped you this personally myself, and it's probably something you could actually take up with your brother, because he is the specialist on this. When the vaccines first started coming out on stream in the market worldwide, there was this issue of cold storage that had to be stored at minus 70 degrees Celsius. The question to ask is, does Trinidad have such kind of cold storage facility?
Only the Pfizer.
And if
only the Pfizer needed to be stored that way.
And does Trinidad have those kind of storage?
Well, before we even got vaccines, they smuggled an open case of Pfizer into the country. So I'm assuming that they had to, because it became an issue. But thanks a lot for your contribution, my friend. I don't want to answer for you. You have me answering for the government, and I am not in a position to answer the government. And every point that you raise is a correct point. But us discussing the incompetence of the government to death care is not going to change anything. That's the
Because
absolute truth.
if you're injecting people with spoiled vaccine, so to speak, then obviously the efficacy of the vaccine is going to be depleted.
Trinidad has extended the shelf life and the expiry date on those same vaccines twice. You're talking about cold storage. We don't even know if they're using. Anyway, let me not get into that too much. This is Trinidad and Tobago. You've not been here long enough, so you've forgotten how bad it is. But
Well,
trust
yeah,
me,
I've been out of Trinidad since 2007.
trust
You
me,
are
see,
right,
it's the first
but
circle
I'm
of
just
hell.
looking on from a distance.
No, I appreciate very much, and I want to take this other call, so I want to thank you for your contribution.
All right, man. Take care. All the best. Thanks.
Hello, good evening, you're live.
Good night, Philip.
Yes, good night.
And all the viewers. Philip, why are we going around in circles, boy? Why are we going around in circles? I was there in a savannah today, and I watched the amount of people it had there today. And I keep hearing you saying, why we just do shut it down? Why we just do step down? Why we just do stay home? Why is it so difficult for people to understand? All the people who were there today, who take the day off and time off of job, why doesn't take the day off and stay home? Stay home for a week, shut down the whole damn country. Don't go to work, stop spending money, and see what happens.
Instead of coming out to the savannah,
and you're gonna get locked.
Exactly.
And all them kind of nonsense, man.
Instead of coming out to the savannah, there was 1,000 people there. Each of those 1,000 people decided, instead of going to the savannah, I'm going to speak to 100 people today. I'm going to use all my networks. I'm going to use text message. I'm going to use WhatsApp. I'm going to call people. I'm going to speak to 100 people today and say, let's stop it. Let's agree on something and stop it, because I can prove the point all the live long day. I could prove the point to Trinidadians and show how we can impact one business at a time and change how that business does business. I mean, we just affected the way KFC treats its delivery drivers. Trinidadians don't know the power they have until when they join the Citizens Union, they realize that they do. And I hope that more people could join the Citizens Union.
I listening to you for the long. You've been talking this thing for months. I just saying that alone, I could understand clearly. Maybe just stay home now, man. Shut down the place. I just stay home. They lock me down. Just like how we lock me down. Until we do go, you don't step out.
You can't get
Don't step out. And don't go to the bank.
Don't spend no money.
People need to gather up the stuff, buy the groceries, and make a plan. Buy the groceries for a month or 2 months. Let me say, go to the bank, do the business, and do so and say, here we on. From next week Monday, we're locking it down. 1 week.
Sorry about that. I was trying to. I ended that call accidentally, and I'm apologizing for that. But the call is absolutely correct, and I want to tell you why. That we have things in this country. We have condiments in this country. Today, a Calypsonian brought at a sampling for us a tomato relish that she made. And she just made it to a company, fish ham. She makes ham from tuna and from shark. And she makes ham, fish ham, for people who don't eat meat. And she brought this relish, she called it tomato relish, a chutney that she made. And it is the most amazing condiment. Every single person who was in that space today that tasted it couldn't believe. And I brought it home and I let other people sample it. And everybody thinks that this is an amazing product. And she didn't even know what she had. And I told her that I want to work with you and I want to help you get financing and I want to help you put that on the world map. And another lady came in from Tobago and they make cereal from dasheen and cassava. And I was telling her, I said, if you only knew the history of cereal and where it came from and how you are actually creating a new path and a new step, and I'm so proud of you. It tastes so good and it's on the shelves in Victoria Foods, grab and go. But the point that needs to be made, and the point that I want to make, I want to be the person that makes the point. For all of Trinidad and Tobago, we don't have to fail as a nation. The government does not have the authority. The government doesn't have the authority to keep us on this track that we've been on for all these years. We've created a citizens union to show Trinidad and Tobago a parallel government. That's what we are. Like they have a parallel healthcare system, we're a parallel government. We're taking care of our members. We're protecting them from private and public sector abuse. We're giving them opportunities to build their business, to become entrepreneurs. We're one step closer to making affordable homes available to Citizens Union members. In no situation does a Citizens Union member come to us. We've had one person that has been a difficult member and we had to refund him his money because sometimes you can't solve everything that's wrong for a person. But for the most part, every single member of the Citizens Union, when they reach out to us and they talk, especially to Anne Dulal and Ian Griffith, who head up our legal and response unit, and they realize the power that they have and how we make it easy for the government, for the organization, for the private sector business and them to come to an understanding so that everybody wins or people walk away with the least amount of hurt. And it's possible for Trinidad and Tobago to easily be one of the best countries in the world. We are right now victims of greed run amok. We have people who become politicians just so that they could facilitate greed run amok. We have political bagmen. The parliament has been corrupted. So when people call in and they talk about issues, why this don't work, why we don't flog them, why we don't catch them, why we don't jail them, why we don't hang them, you think you're the only ones asking that question? Trinidad and Tobago could be perfectly run and functional in months. I hear people talking about we had a party, but we couldn't do it. We only had 5 years. 5 years? If you had 5 years and $300 billion, like we have every 5 years, and every 5 years, we spend $300 billion as a budget or more. If you have 5 years and $300 billion, you could build Trinidad and Tobago from scratch, from absolute scratch. I don't know why people think that the Prime Minister sits with his team and he says, for the next 4 years, we're going to work on water. And when that's solved, for the 4 years after that, we're going to work on health. It doesn't work so. Everything runs concurrently, together, simultaneously. The Prime Minister's job is man management and to identify goals and to make sure that we measure all along the way. That's my job in the Progressive Empowerment Party, in the Citizens Union, in the Jericho Project, and I understand that. My job is to make it possible for people to get their job done and get out of the way. My job is to make sure that all of us are clear about the goal, the target, what the measurables are, and get out people's way. No micromanagement. Nobody's coming and saying, because when I do, I make a mess. And I see it every single time. So my job is, and the Prime Minister's job is to identify where we want to be with public health. Where? What is your vision? You've been in government for 6 years. Your Minister of Health has never told us this is the vision for public health to move us from the malaise and the failure that we've been for the last 59 years and get us to here. And it will cost us X, and it will take this long, and it will take us this many years, and every quarter, every month, every week, this is what will happen. So we know, so we can be guided, so there can be oversight in the parliament. People call and they talk about constitutional reform. I hear Basio Pandey beating that dead horse without telling people in clear, easy to understand that all Trinidad need is the ability to fire the government. You see that? You see recall? Recall is the most powerful tool. It's a magic wand. Recall gives you the same power to vote them in and to vote them out. And you don't have to wait for 5 years. Then if you're sufficiently incensed and frustrated by the performance of the government or the opposition, your member of parliament, you could mobilize your community like they did today with an actual plan. You see, today they mobilized and then there's no plan. So we go in the savannah and we shout, Rowley must go, Rowley must go. If the police didn't come and arrest us, well, arrest people there and end it, if the police didn't come and bring an end to it, we could still be there. It could be 10,000 people there tonight chanting, Rowley must go, Rowley must go, and just leave there. Just leave them chanting. At some point, people will get tired, they'll get hoarse, they get hungry, and they'll go home. It didn't serve the purpose that the organizers thinks that it does. What it served is it showed that Trinidadians are willing to stand together, and I agree with that. But it's misdirected because we're not supposed to be screaming at the government anymore. We're supposed to be directing the government. Recall that same amount of people united on common purpose to fire the government would be fired and you'd have an election. Recall is the most important, the simplest thing to enact as a law. And the Progressive Empowerment Party said in our first act as a government would be to pass recall as law. First act, not last act, first. We invite 100,000 people come into Port of Spain so we could come out and say to the entire square, recall is now law. Everybody give yourself a round of applause and let's go home. So you could fire this government. You could start the process of firing this government. Because that's what you need, a government willing to do that, to put the power back in the voters' hands. And if people are stupid enough to go and vote on a government that just did that, well then they deserve what they get. But that's another conversation for another time. You have to have the courage of your convictions to trust that the people will see and understand that if you are willing to give them that ejection seat power, then what else you're going to be able to do for them? The next thing that you need is to separate the legislature from the executive. Simply put, the executive is what we call the ministers. The ministers are CEO. The minister's job is to go, if you are the minister of food production, is to find out what all of the resources are that are available to you to grow food. And you get that and you put that together and you get a plan and you identify that plan. That's the minister's job. So that's the executive is the CEO of health and the CEO of public utilities and the CEO of national security. And each and every one of them need to have a plan for the organization that they are running. And that should be ratified in the parliament by the legislature. The legislature is the House of Representatives. All of those people that are voted into the House of Representatives and appointed to the Senate. That's the legislature. And if you use the legislature for one purpose outside of representing the people, if you use it for one purpose as oversight, imagine if every 3 months Terence D'Alsing had to go before an oversight committee to explain where along the way are we now with your plan that you said we would be at. You said that 6 months into this year we would be at X. Are we at X? If not, why not? That works. That is what works. That you have people responsible for something and that you have people responsible for overseeing that that gets done. And that works. Trinidad could be fixed and it could be fixed fast. And no, we don't have to end violently. And our people don't have to clash with police. It doesn't have to come to that. I don't think that we're there yet. I don't think we need to be lighting any fires. I don't think we need to be throwing any stones. What I think we need to be doing is uniting and standing up to stand down. I think we need to be, we live in a country where the poor people made, and I was getting to this earlier, condiments to flavor the most pedestrian of foods to make it palatable and along the way created delicacies. We've become so spoiled and so entitled that we want what we want and we want it now. We don't understand that a lot is built by sacrifice, and that sacrifice is the journey that we will look back on and respect ourselves that we change this place by our willingness to take this sacrifice. And sacrifice is simple because your business gonna close down anyway. The people in Petrotrin who lost their jobs, they lost their jobs anyway. The people, the communication workers union sending out letter after letter, and I read it all, and I know it going nowhere. You can't be the communication workers union and a government minister is your legal advisor. Come on. You're fooling your members. And when they want TSTT to shut down and sell, they have all the mechanisms to do it. Because the people of Trinidad and Tobago don't understand what telecommunications mean, that the fourth richest man in the world is a Mexican telecommunications giant, and everything else in the world that makes money, from Amazon to Facebook, to Apple and Microsoft and Bill Gates and all that, requires telecommunications. That's the backbone it rides on. That telecommunications, some of you don't want to lose. That Singapore and Dubai made all their money on ports, and 97% of the world traffic passed through Panama Canal. Ports and port services is big, massive money. Don't let them sell the port. The port's supposed to be, if you're going to operationalize the port to profit, ask Singapore to come and help you. Ask Dubai. Ask Brazil. Ask Panama. These people do this as a business. Marine craft, storage in Trinidad and Tobago would make billions of dollars, more than oil could ever make. Trinidad and Tobago could go back to being the third, if not second or first, wealthiest per capita nation in the Western world. We could be one of the richest countries in the world because of all the blessings that we have. Why Trinidad fails? Trinidad fails because the people of Trinidad and Tobago have become too spoiled and too entitled. We don't want to sacrifice. So we've allowed ourselves to be divided by the color of our skin and the texture of our hair and who we pray into and who we lie down with in the night. And at the end of the day, none of those things worked for us and no government has ever served us. And we've gotten to where we've gotten to now as a failed nation because of it. And the only way we're going to roll it back and the only way we're going to fix it is if we stand together. And that together includes those police officers and it includes those soldiers and it includes those Coast Guardsmen and everybody in law enforcement and justice and healthcare and everything else. Because at the end of the day, when we take off our clothes, we change our clothes, to sit down at night and watch some TV and eat something, we're all citizens of the Republic. And we all want what everybody else wants. We want best for our children, for our parents, and for ourselves. And the only way we're going to get that is if we stand together. Because as long as we continue to vote by the color of our skin and the texture of our hair, or worse, for as long as we start to think that we're not political, so we're not getting involved politically, Trinidad is only going to get worse and we'll only have ourselves to blame. Before we flee, let's stand up and fight. If you're not yet a member of the Progressive Empowerment Party, please join peptt.com/join. If you're not yet a member of the Citizens Union, please visit citizensuniontt.com/join. And if you are a business in Trinidad and Tobago and you want to benefit from the tens of thousands of members of the Citizens Union, please join our business affiliates program. And you could WhatsApp me on 682-2110 and I'll forward you to wherever you need to go. Victoria Foods Grab and Go is open tomorrow. We have a lot more suppliers, brand new. We have somebody that's making some of the best Mobi I've ever tasted, and she's on the shelves from tomorrow. Come on, have your lunch. 218 food delivered anywhere. 4712888 and the Agitry WhatsApp list so you know what's on the menu for tomorrow. Yeah, all of this and more is what we do, who we are, where we could go. This is a proof of concept. We've done Citizens Union and Victoria Foods in a year, 1 year. As a private organization, unfunded. No contract mafia, no drug money. Just hardworking people with a vision, unwilling to accept failure as an option. Don't be depressed, don't be sad. Get set on fire, get excited. Be ready to be the change that we all know that we need to be the country that we know that we always could have been. We could do that together. Stand together. It's on you, it's up to you. I'd like to thank Vernon De Lima and Gary Griffith for joining me tonight. And I'd like all of you who were with us on the TV stations and stayed with us online. I'd like to thank the support staff and the administration and technical people at MCTV. I'd like to thank Sati Shamsaran and his team, Felicia Holder and her team that handles the advertising. I'd like to thank all of the advertisers who make these shows possible. And I'd like to thank you and wish all of Trinidad and Tobago a brighter and better country. And until next time for this show, stay safe, Trinidad and Tobago.